They say there are three constants in the galaxy. Space is cold, politicians lie, and you never ever mess with humans. The Zarnaxian Empire forgot the third rule, and that mistake is about to shake the stars themselves. The tavern encounter * Outpost 7's Nebula Tavern wasn't the kind of place where heroes were born. It was where smugglers made shady deals, bounty hunters counted their credits, thieves like me, Vexler, pretended to be invisible. The air was heavy with fermented root fumes, and every species in the galaxy seemed crammed into that dimly lit hall. And then she walked in. The change was instant, not the movie-style silence where every head turns. No, this was subtler. Conversations dipped, voices lowered, and every pair of alien eyes flicked toward her while pretending not to. Humans had that effect outside their territory. They carried with them an aura, danger mixed with defiance. She was tall for a human female. Piercing blue eyes that scanned the room like a military scanner, her dark hair tied back in something humans call a ponytail. Her spacer gear was standard enough. But the bulges beneath it told a sharper story. Concealed weapons, plural, I muttered into my glass. Great, another human with a death wish. Sitting just across the room were 3 Zarnaxian officers, purple-skinned, arrogant, and fresh from the Empire's front lines. For humans and Zarnaxians, neutral ground was a myth. Their history was soaked in blood, and mixing them in one room was like mixing plasma fuel with a lit torch. And then the impossible happened. She walked straight toward me. She didn't even look at me when she spoke. I'm looking for Vexler. Antenna twitched. That was my name. But no sane alien admitted it to a human. Never heard of him, I replied smoothly. Her lips curled into a knowing smile. Strange. You answered when the bartender called your tab 5 minutes ago. Froze. This human wasn't guessing. She knew me, whatever she wanted. It wasn't going to be simple. Alexa Morgan's demand * she didn't waste time. Her voice was calm, precise, almost too controlled. You will work with me, she said. Not a question, not a threat, just cold certainty. My spines tingled. No one spoke like that to me. Except humans. Look, Morgan, I don't work with humans, especially not when Zarnaxian officers are watching. She glanced sideways at the 3 purple-skinned giants glaring from the corner booth. Then don't think of it as work, she whispered. Think of it as survival. You help me reach Nexus Station, and you live. Refuse, and you'll end up in chains. I laughed, trying to sound casual, but my antenna twitched when she added, triple your usual rate, triple enough credits. To keep me comfortable for months, enough to tempt even a cautious smuggler like me. But money didn't erase the truth. Nexus meant checkpoints. Vacation. Neural scramblers that trap you in your worst memories forever. I told her as much. Her expression shifted. Her calm cracked just slightly. They didn't just attack Earth, she said quietly. They burned my colony. 20,000 civilians. No warning, no survivors. The room seemed to go colder. Everyone knew the story of Proxima Colony. Even I felt my chest tighten. But before I could respond, shadows moved. The Zarnaxians had risen from their booth. One sneered, translator struggling with his guttural tone. Human. Your presence violates Directive 1147. Morgan didn't flinch. That directive doesn't exist. This is neutral territory. Their frills flared in anger. Hands moved. Toward weapons. I sank lower into my seat. This was about to explode. And then, did. 10 seconds of terror * it happened faster than even my eyes could track. The lead Zarnaxian reached for his plasma pistol, but Morgan was already moving. One moment, she was seated. The next, she had twisted his arm into an unnatural angle. The pistol clattered to the floor. The second officer barely had time to rise before a knife flashed from her boot, striking his nerve cluster. He collapsed, paralyzed but breathing. The third drew his weapon. I braced for the end. But Morgan's finger pressed against his throat, a pressure point so precise that his eyes rolled back and he collapsed in silence. 10 seconds, that's all it took. 3 Imperial officers, incapacitated. No fatalities, just humiliation. Ah! The Krell bartender clicked nervously. They will bring reinforcements. Leave now. Morgan calmly sat back on her stool, sipped my drink, and said, "So, about that transport to Nexus Station?" I gaped at her. "Are you insane? You just assaulted Imperial officers." "Self-defense," she corrected smoothly. "And I didn't kill them. That would attract attention I don't need." That sent shivers down my exoskeleton. "What's at Nexus?" I demanded, though I already dreaded the answer. She met my eyes, voice cold. "The Zarnaxian High Command will be there, including Grand Marshal Drex." Blood ran cold. Drex, the butcher of Proxima. The architect of massacres across the galaxy. You're planning to assassinate him? I whispered. Her reply chilled me further. No, killing him would be merciful. I plan to destroy everything he's built. And at that moment I realized this human wasn't just reckless. She was terrifying. The reluctant deal asterisk the tavern still echoed with the groans of defeated Zarnaxians when I realized just how deep I was in. Reinforcements would arrive any second, and sitting beside me was the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, a human with nothing left to lose. Morgan's eyes never wavered, her calmness unnerving, her certainty absolute. I told her it was suicide. Nexus Station wasn't just another outpost, it was the Empire's iron fist made solid. Layers of security, endless patrols, checkpoints, where even the bravest smugglers refused to tread. But she didn't argue. She leaned closer, her voice a whisper that could cut steel. "I will pay triple your rate," she repeated, "and when this is over, the Empire will remember Earth for generations." Triple was enough to twist my antenna with temptation, but I knew what she was really asking. Treason against the most brutal regime in the galaxy. Still, there was something in her voice, something dark, cold, and unstoppable. She wasn't bargaining for transport, she was demanding fate itself. And then the universe answered for me. An explosion rocked Outpost 7, rattling glasses, flickering displays, and sending sirens screaming through the corridors. The holoscreens lit with alerts, Imperial troops rushing toward the docking bays. My drink nearly slipped from my hand as the realization struck. "You planned this," I hissed. Morgan's faint smirk was all the confirmation I needed. The fight with the officers, the explosion, none of it was chance. She'd known I'd be here. She'd been watching me for weeks. And now, I wasn't her partner. I was her prisoner of circumstance. "Time to go," she said, gripping my arm with iron strength. I tried to resist, but the words she whispered chilled me more than the blast outside. "You're the fastest pilot in this sector, Vexler, and tonight, you're mine." Escape from Outpost 7 asterisk, the service corridors of Outpost 7 were a maze of rusted pipes, flickering lights, and the stench of recycled air. But Morgan moved through them with uncanny precision, dragging me along like she had memorized every twist and turn. Alarms wailed in a dozen alien dialects, each declaring a full security lockdown. My instincts screamed to run the other way, to vanish into the shadows as I always did. But humans had a way of making choices for you violently. We rounded a corner, and my breath caught in my throat. There it was, my ship, the Ventura, sitting in docking bay 16, her engines humming like a heartbeat, the security barriers inexplicably offline. My eyes narrowed. "That ship was impounded," I muttered. Morgan didn't even glance back. Not anymore. My friends are very persuasive with computers. Before I could question her further, the bay door slammed open. Zarnaxian troops poured in, plasma rifles raised, their frills glowing with battle rage. My legs nearly gave out a dozen soldiers against 2 fugitives and a ship that wasn't even prepped for launch. But Morgan never hesitated. She shoved me forward, shouting, "Run or die," explaining why you were consorting with a human. I scrambled up the ramp, heart pounding, while she covered me with precision shots from a weapon I hadn't even seen her draw. Inside, I found another human already at the controls. Devin Parker, she called him, calm, efficient, fingers dancing across my ship's systems as if he owned them. Perimeter defense is coming back online in 20 seconds, he barked. We either fly now or never. Morgan shoved me into the co-pilot's seat, her grip firm as steel. Triple rate, remember? She said coldly. I slammed my appendage. On the biometric scanner, the Ventura roared to life. As the clamps released, I realized the horrifying truth. I wasn't making a choice anymore. I was already part of their war. The weapon revealed asterisk, the Ventura tore free from Outpost 7 like a hunted animal, streaking into the void with Imperial patrols snapping at our heels. I took the controls furious, terrified, but alive, and for a brief moment, I remembered why I was the best pilot in this sector. Maneuvers sharp enough to shear a battleship, evasions so reckless they bordered on suicidal, but they worked. Within minutes, we'd outrun the patrols and leaped into subspace, leaving the chaos behind us. My chest heaved as I glared at Morgan. Do you realize what you've done? I snapped. Attacked Imperial officers, blown up an outpost, dragged me into treason. She cut me off with a single glance. Calm, cold, unshakable, Vexler. She said quietly, we aren't just running. We're changing the galaxy. Then she nodded at Devin. Show him. With a tap on his console, a hologram burst into life, schematics rotating in the air. Blue lines of alien and human code interwoven in ways I'd never seen. My antenna drooped as dread crawled over me. What is that? I whispered, though I already knew it wasn't just a weapon. Morgan's eyes were hard as steel. This is Prometheus, not designed to kill fleets, but to end empires. My mandibles clicked nervously. I'd seen every contraband, every prototype the galaxy had to offer, but this was different. This wasn't a bomb or a gun. It was information weaponized, a virus meant to infect the Zarnaxians' unbreakable communication network. A system that tied their entire military together. Impossible, I muttered. The Empire monitors everything humanity builds. Devin smirked darkly. They monitored what we wanted them to see. Meanwhile, we built this. Morgan leaned closer, her voice a whisper that chilled me. Die. Empire believes humans are dangerous because of our weapons. The wrong? What makes us terrifying? Is our creativity. And our spite. For the first time in my life, I believed her. And that terrified me more than the Empire ever had. Pursued by the Dominion asterisk, the Ventura's hum was steady. But my nerves weren't. Prometheus, a weapon made of knowledge, of rebellion, of fire stolen from the so-called gods, still flickered in my mind like a phantom. I barely had time to process its implications before the ship's alarm shrieked, proximity sensors flaring red. Devin's face tightened as he read the data. Not a checkpoint vessel, he muttered grimly. My blood froze when the silhouette appeared on our scanners, a behemoth of steel and malice. The Dominion, Admiral Krell's flagship, the hunter of fleets, the executioner of civilizations. His voice cut through the cums, dripping with menace. Unidentified vessel. Power down and prepare for boarding. Morgan strapped herself in, eyes as steady as carved stone. Options. She asked, as if being targeted by a battleship was an afternoon inconvenience. My mandibles clicked. We can't outrun a battlecruiser. We can't outgun it. We can't, Devin interrupted, fingers dancing across the console. There's a plasma nebula 3 parsecs away. If we can reach it, their sensors won't track us. My spine stiffened in horror. The plasma nebula, a graveyard of ships, where one wrong move meant ionized dust. That's suicide, I hissed. Morgan's gaze cut through me like a blade. So is surrender. She was right. Krell was already powering weapons. A direct hit would tear us apart. I growled, plotting the course. But don't blame me when we're fried to atoms. Devin braced. Morgan's hands tightened on her restraints, and I pushed the Ventura harder than I ever had before. The Dominion's cannons blazed, lances of energy slicing past us close enough to scorch our shields. Fighters launched, screaming through the void like angry hornets. And ahead of us, the swirling purple storm of the plasma nebula loomed. Beautiful, deadly, our only chance of survival. As we plunged toward its chaos, I realized one truth. If the Empire didn't kill us, the nebula surely would. Into the plasma nebula, the nebula swallowed us whole, like the jaws of some ancient cosmic beast. Purple storms swirled around the Ventura arcs, of plasma leaping across our shields, each strike rattling the hull like the fists of angry gods. The Dominion hung back at the edge of the storm, cautious, but their fighters were less restrained. 3 of them darted in behind us, their weapons lighting up the chaos. Devon cursed under his breath, rerouting power to the rear shields. We can't fight in here, I shouted over the alarms, gripping the controls with every ounce of skill I'd honed across years of smuggling runs. Then don't fight, Morgan said calmly, her voice eerily steady. Lose them. Easier said than done. The plasma discharges scrambled sensors, fried navigation, and blinded targeting systems. Flying blind in this storm was madness. Madness was better than Krell's chains. I spotted a dense plasma cluster ahead. A storm within the storm. A place so volatile no sane pilot would dare approach. When I give the word cut all power, I barked.
Ow.
Devon's eyes widened. That'll make us dead in the water. Exactly, I snapped. The plasma will mask our signature. Morgan didn't hesitate. Do it, he surged. Toward the cluster, the fighters closing in. Just before they fired, I gave the order. Devon killed everything but life support and the Ventura went dark, momentum carrying us into the storms. Through the viewport, I watched the fighters streak past, overshooting us, their sensors blind. For a moment, there was silence. Only the groaning hull and the hiss of plasma waves outside. Then, slowly, the Dominion itself drifted past, scanning the wrong quadrant. They hadn't seen us. We were invisible. Devon exhaled in relief. They missed us. I shook my head grimly. For now, Krell doesn't give up. He'll set a perimeter and wait us out. Morgan unstrapped herself, and for the first time, a smile, cold and dangerous, curled across her lips. Then we stopped running, instead of going around the Empire's forces. She laid her hand on the containment field in the cargo bay, where Prometheus glowed faintly, alive with power. We go straight through them. The Prometheus gambit, we slipped from the nebula's jaws like ghosts, shields sparking, hull trembling but alive. Ahead, Nexus Station rose from the void, a fortress of steel and arrogance, the crown jewel of the Zarnaxian Empire. Its towers glittered with docking bays, its spires bristled with weapon platforms, and inside, the High Command gathered under the protection of Grand Marshal Drex himself. Every instinct I had screamed at me to turn back, to vanish into subspace, and never return, but Morgan's gaze was fixed, her purpose unshakable. Docking Bay 47, she said, as if she already owned the station. And then her wrist device chimed. A new voice came through, sharp, controlled, carrying the clipped authority of someone used to giving orders. This is Lena Patel. Security systems on Bay 47 will be down for 15 minutes. Don't be late, my mandibles clicked. An Imperial officer. Morgan smirked. Not Imperial resistance. Her family was on Proxima too. The puzzle pieces snapped into place. Every atrocity, every purge, the Empire hadn't crushed rebellion. It had forged it. We docked in silence, slipping into the belly of the beast. Disguised as maintenance workers, we moved through service corridors, the Prometheus device hidden in a container that pulsed faintly, as if eager for release. The halls of Nexus hummed with false security, guards rushing toward a bomb. Threat Lena had conveniently fabricated. For the first time, I saw the scope of Morgan's plan. It wasn't a desperate strike. It was a symphony of sabotage, a dozen moving parts playing in harmony. At the central computer hub, Lena blocked the corridor. "Hurry," she hissed. "Security's returning." Morgan knelt before the console, sliding Prometheus into the system. The device hummed, circuits glowing, and then the impossible began. Across every screen, the Imperial crest flickered, dissolved, and was replaced by a single human glyph: fire. Prometheus was alive, replicating, spreading like a plague of freedom through the Empire's sacred network. I staggered back as my translator whispered the unthinkable Imperial codes. What? Fleet commands, detention camp locations, all being broadcast. Galaxy-wide, the hierarchy cracked. The Empire's chains were snapping, and from the observation deck above, Morgan whispered almost reverently, "Watch closely, Vexler. This is how empires die." The fall of an empire from the observation deck. I watched chaos bloom in the heart of the Zarnaxian Empire. The high command chamber erupted in panic as aides screamed. Terminals blared alerts, and officers scrambled like insects in firelight. Grand Marshal Drex stood at the center, his decorated armor gleaming under the failing lights, bellowing orders no one followed. His empire was unraveling before his very eyes. Prometheus had done its work. Entire fleets now answered to no one. Detention camps were being liberated in real time. Resistance forces across 17 sectors were striking with precision using the Empire's own codes. For the first time in centuries, fear was painted not on the faces of the conquered, but on their conquerors. Morgan's gaze never left Drex. Her blue eyes were cold, unflinching, as though she had been waiting her whole life for this moment. "This is justice," she whispered. And for once, I believed her. But justice came with fire. A thunderous explosion rocked Nexus Station, hurling us against the wall. Lena's face drained of color as she checked her terminal. The destruction of the main core. He's trying to erase Prometheus by taking the station down with him. The floor quaked, alarms blared, and the station groaned like a dying beast. We ran through smoke-filled corridors, bodies rushing in every direction, the Empire devouring itself in its final act of desperation. When we finally reached Docking Bay 47, Devon already had the Ventura roaring to life. We blasted free of Nexus. Just as secondary explosions cascaded through its spires, shattering the once mighty fortress into burning fragments. Behind us, the Empire's jewel became its tomb. Yet, even in destruction, Prometheus thrived, signals spreading beyond Nexus, beyond Drex, beyond anything the Empire could control. Lena showed me live feeds. Detention camps falling, fleets mutinying, entire worlds rising. And then Morgan spoke, her voice calm amid the storm. "This is the dawn of the Prometheus Concordat, new order, built on knowledge, not fear." For a long moment, none of us spoke. Stars stretched before us, endless and free. And in that silence, I realized the third universal constant had never been more true. Space is cold. Politicians lie, but you never ever mess with humans.